Greetings, this is Florida attorney Woody Claremont with another case in legal history. Guinn versus United States, 1915, stands as a pivotal U.S. Supreme Court case that addressed discriminatory practices in voting, particularly the grandfather clause of Oklahoma's Voter Registration Act of 1910. This provision allowed individuals to circumvent literacy tests if their grandfathers had been eligible to vote as of January 1st, 1866, effectively disenfranchising most African Americans at the time. In terms of the background of the case emerged from a broader context of systemic racial discrimination in the United States, especially in the South and Southwest. Local officials in Oklahoma applied the reading test unequally, with black applicants often facing unreasonable hurdles or outright rejection. In 1915, the federal government prosecuted many public officials for conspiring to deny voting rights to black citizens, leading to this U.S. Supreme Court case. In terms of the NAACP attorneys that argued this case, the case was argued by notable NAACP attorneys Charles Hamilton Houston as well as William H. Hastie. Charles Hamilton Houston was a prominent civil rights lawyer and an influential figure in the NAACP. He was known for his legal strategies aimed at dismantling segregation as well as discrimination. Houston later became the first black editor of Harvard Law Review and was also instrumental in training a generation of civil rights lawyers, including Thurgood Marshall. William H. Hastie, who was a brother of Omega Psi Phi, was another significant figure in the civil rights movement. Known for his advocacy and legal expertise, he became the first black federal judge and then later served as the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Hastie's work in civil rights law and his involvement in cases like Guinn highlighted his commitment to fighting racial injustice. In terms of the context of Black Wall Street took place a few years after the ruling in Guinn, and therefore this case would predate it. Nonetheless, it is worthy of note to mention the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921, which destroyed the black community known as Black Wall Street in Greenwood, Oklahoma. In late May and early June 1921, a white mob attacked Greenwood, fueled by racial tensions and false accusations against a particular black man. The violence resulted in the deaths of hundreds of black residents, the destruction of businesses, the razing of communities, the destruction of homes and churches, and left thousands of African Americans homeless in this terroristic act of racial violence. The massacre had profound effects on the African American community in Oklahoma and beyond, creating an atmosphere of fear, terror, and vulnerability. It illustrated the lengths to which white supremacy would go to maintain racial hierarchies, making cases like Guinn even all the more critical in the fight for civil rights and voting access. The Guinn case did nonetheless predate the Tulsa Race Massacre, which was a horrific event, but it showed that the racial climate in Oklahoma and the U.S. all over, not just Oklahoma, that there was a lot of efforts of white supremacy to try to stifle rights at every turn and destroy thriving black communities. The message that was sent against the officials in Guinn by the affirmation of the convictions set a legal precedent that contributed to the ongoing struggle for civil rights. Uneven application of the law against blacks was an issue. Local voting registration officials had interpreted the Voter Registration Act to mean that they could flatly refuse to administer literacy tests to black Oklahomans or maybe give them unreasonable ones. In one instance, officials rejected a college graduate even though there was not the slightest room for doubt as to whether he was entitled to vote. So therefore, when the U.S. government prosecuted these officials in 1915 for criminal conspiracy, this became a big deal as they were found guilty. In the case of Guinn versus the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court affirmed the convictions against these officials in the lower courts. Justice Edward Wright went on to strike down the grandfather clause. He saw the Oklahoma law for what it was, a bald-faced attempt to disenfranchise black voters by creating a series of confusing rules that allowed officials to deny them the vote every chance they had. This was something that predated the 15th Amendment, and it made this period one where there was a lot of controlling and there was a lot of domination and there was a fight for suffrage in the African American community. Nonetheless, the successful ruling was hailed as a significant victory, reflecting hope and resilience in the face of oppression. It marked an essential step towards ensuring basic fairness in voting rights, laying the groundwork for future civil rights advocates amidst a backdrop of racial violence and inequality. Also, side note, Charles Hamilton Houston, when I was in college and I went to Binghamton University, I saw that we did not have a black pre-law society on campus. So therefore, I went around having petitions signed and was able to have a pre-law group, which I named the Charles Hamilton Houston Pre-Law Society. That group was later renamed in subsequent administrations to the Thurgood Marshall Pre-Law Society, as more people were familiar with Thurgood Marshall as opposed to Charles Hamilton Houston. But that pre-law society exists at Binghamton University to this day, long after my graduation from that place. I hope you enjoyed this moment in African American legal history. This is Woody Claremont signing off. Have a wonderful day.